Hey everybody, Tony here, Creative Fish Studio. I thought I'd share with you some of the updates here in the fish room. Now this is really my hobby room, it's the garage, and so I don't really have a show tank per se, but I've got several tanks. I thought I'd show you what I've got in them and give you an update on where they are and what the plans are. Alright, so here is my favorite of the tanks that are freshwater, and this is my African cichlid tank. Lots of beautiful, colorful, different African cichlids in here. Now these come from Lake Malawi. There's some peacocks in there, mbunas. One of them's actually hiding right up here in the rocks. You can't see him. Maybe if I go in here a little bit closer, you can catch a glimpse. There he is. These guys are very friendly. Every time I come out, they come right up to the glass here. Now they're not doing it at the moment because I did just feed them. I'm not actually sure why they're being so skittish, but they are at the moment. But usually very friendly. Up here, we've got another just 20-gallon saltwater tank, and right now I've got some frags growing in it. But this is really for these two Picasso clownfish that are in here. And I've got an A1 Prime light set up in here. It's just a little nano tank. Basic hang-on back filter, some live rock, live sand. As you can see, I'm having a little bit of issues right now with it being a somewhat new tank. I had converted it. This was the one that was tropical fish before, but I converted it because I needed some more space for saltwater fish. But it's just a very simple setup, hang-on back filter. We got the fan, the power head there, and some live rock in the back here with coralline algae, 3 pieces, and then I've got this little rack stand, which I can't tell if it's the white that's causing the algae because there's algae on everything at the moment. So I'm trying to get the settings still right for that and the setup for having corals in there. Alright, I'll come back down here. These are the fish that were in that tank. It's just an assortment of your tropical fish, guppies. What else we got in here? Some neon tetras, and got a dwarf gourami in there. What else? Tiger barbs. Just a few different handful of fish. Over here we've got a Convict Cichlid. He was in a tank with some other fish, but he was too aggressive, so he's been moved out to his own little tank here. But you can see I've got 3 20 longs side by side stacked below a 40, and then I've got the 20-gallon up top and just a little 10-gallon off to the left right over here that's used as a quarantine tank when I need it. And over here is a green spotted puffer. He's way in the back. Looks like he's making his way here. He's a friendly little chap. I like him a lot. He's probably one of my favorite fish. He's beautiful. He's the only guy in the tank. He's got a nice black belly. He just ate, so he's very full. And it tends to change color. His belly does. So that's an interesting thing. It can mean various different things, like he's stressed, or in this case he's happy. He's very full. But he's got some hiding places in there. But a very, very beautiful fish. Probably one of my favorites in any of the tanks that I have. There's just something about this guy that I really like the way he swims, and he's just very peaceful to watch. Watching him swim is kind of like watching a hummingbird fly. It's very cool. But I feed him krill, but I've also got some clams, frozen clams that I'll put in there to help with his teeth, so he has a shell to bite on. And so I just throw those in completely frozen, and he does all right. Now he's been converted now to a brackish system. I kind of moved in that direction fairly quickly. I did just clean out his tank the other day, but the way that these are set up, I've had some water drip to the outside between the tanks, and there's really just no getting in there. I'll just quickly touch on this one. This is just a little 5-gallon that's set up with mosquito fish in here. Gambusia that's pregnant that I caught in the stream or the creek behind our house. And so it's had some babies, and I didn't catch it quick enough, and it ate them all. And so we're just waiting again. It's pregnant again. And so we're going to try and separate them as soon as possible, put her back in the stream, and then see about raising the little babies in here. The fry, And there's a little beta tank next to it, but it's dark at the moment. I'm not going to bother. Alright, so this is the 55-gallon tank here. I got this at the $1 per gallon sale at the local Petco, and just kind of built it using things that I had. In fact, there was no light on it for the longest time. I was using just regular old Home Depot light and fluorescent above just to light the tank. So there's no live plants in it because of that. I do have some real river rock in here and some stone, but there's a Oscar in here who's a very happy guy. We've got a couple of blood parrots and a Jack Dempsey. Now this is going to be a bit of an overload for a 55-gallon tank. I can already hear people telling me that. So I do water changes in this twice a week to keep up with the extra load, because that's one of the biggest problems that you have with this. The Oscar will run out of room. You probably want only him if I'm going to have the 55-gallon tank for him. So we've got a little bit extra in here. There will not be any more fish added to this tank. We're just going to kind of make do with what we have in here at the moment, and see how everything goes, and if we need to adapt or find a new home for any of these guys, or create a new home for them. We'll see in the future what that is. But right now they're not full grown. They're doing all right. They have lots of room still to swim, as you can see. So it's not been a big deal. Right next to that I've got my 40-gallon saltwater tank. So this tank is my first saltwater tank. I've said before I've made some mistakes in all of it, but overall I'm happy with how everything is turning out and starting to look. I again do have some algae, as you can see, growing here, and there's actually a long tip, an LTA anemone in the back there, a green one, who's decided that he wanted to hide. I do have this rose bubble tip. It's a black widow. At the moment now, the bubbles have kind of just stretched out and are a little bit elongated. Usually they're nice round bubbles, and he's actually a smaller size. I just fragged this hammer here, and so there's one in the other tank, and I've got two more of the pieces here, this being my starter colony of them. What do we got here? We've got Xenia. We have pulsing Xenia in the other one. We've got a torch that's kind of pulled itself in, a Hippo Tang that is going to be way too big for this tank. We're currently looking for a much larger tank in the 180-gallon range, and that's been the plan all along, is to get something bigger and used so that it's already kind of been broken in. So got my eye on a few that I've been looking at, and we'll see when we can pull the trigger on that, hopefully soon. But we've got here Montipora. I believe this one's a chalice. I don't know. I never heard when I got it. And I actually don't know what this is back here. They did not have it labeled. It looks kind of like a Montipora, but they told me it needed to be held upright, but it looks like a Monty. I don't know. The bird's nest in the front. So we've got some coralline in here. We've got just some live rock, and then we have some just regular dead rock that we put in, and it's beginning to convert itself over. The GSP is kind of spreading and taking over this rock. I'm gonna have to cut it back at some point, I have a feeling. Not at the moment, but eventually. I don't want it growing down to the next rock, but I would like it to maybe cover the whole top of this particular piece of rock that it's on there. Have a nice big swath of it. Overall, I think it's looking pretty good. I'm happy with it. I still need to find a placement for these where they're going to live permanently. There's our Fingerprint Toby puffer. He can be a little bit of a troublemaker every once in a while. He likes to nip me when I put my hand in there. So just a few fish in here. Actually, I can see my crab back there, an emerald crab, which I'm really happy to see because I thought it had died, but it was molting. So it's good to see it out again. I wasn't sure I was going to explain that to my kids. I actually want to see how big he is now that he's gone ahead and shed his old skeleton, exoskeleton, and has a new shell. So we'll see. The clownfish are growing nicely. The puffer just kind of elongated his neck area there. He didn't puff up, but he's got kind of a weird flap at the bottom right now. He's going nuts. I have not seen him do this before. You can see that little area at the bottom was extended. He's cool, as much of a troublemaker as he is. Oh wow, the emerald crab is much bigger than it was before. He'll be much easier to spot. But everybody, for the most part, gets along. Again, the Toby will just pick at the coral every once in a while, not very often. This Hippo Tang really likes this spot down in the rocks. I'm not sure what it's going to do when it gets too big to squeeze in between there. It's his favorite spot for sure. One of the things that I added to the tank recently was a auto top off. So I'm using this ATO for auto top off. It's just on a 5-gallon bucket. Again, this is how I was saying, it's not really a show tank, as you can see. It's just a blue Lowe's bucket hooked up. I've got my MP10 there, hang on back, and then this hang on back skimmer, protein skimmer as well. So everything's right there to see. It's exposed. The light's just on one of the stands hanging above. I've got my pegboard with all my different RC stuff up there. But this is where I spend my time looking and focusing on, so it hasn't really been a bother to me. But here they are, most of them all hanging out in one spot. This happens quite a bit. They all just kind of hang out together. It's kind of cool. It's just something else to be able to come out here and see this little slice of the ocean here in a little 40-gallon rectangle. Anyway, thanks for stopping by the Creative Fish Studio here on YouTube. We'll check you guys later.